What's up, everyone? Welcome to War Whiskey Podcast. My name is Justin Fisher. Today, I have a very special guest, Mr. Chris Autry. Chris, how are you today?
I'm good, sir. How you doing?
Doing good. For you guys who don't know, Chris Autry and I used to serve together. He's actually one of the first people, if not the absolute first person I met in the military. We've been friends for 22 years, actually, because I've been in for 22 years. So he was just fresh out of boot camp right when I joined, and I got back, and we were just two awkward kids in a unit that was deployed. So, Chris, as you know, our reunion is coming up of our 2003 to 2005 deployment. What do you think about that?
I'm excited about it, man. There's some people I haven't seen since. There's some people that have called, wayward of memory, and then you see pictures posted on the site. And so it's like, oh my gosh, I completely forgot that they were with us, and it would be good to see them again. I can't wait for all that to happen.
Thank you. I was thinking that exact same thing. I'm like, oh, that guy was there? Who was that guy?
Yep.
Yeah. What's shockingly is like when you don't see yourself in a lot of pictures, you're like, wait a minute, I knew I was there. But like,
thank you for posting that one that I'm there. So I was like, oh, he's actually there.
Oh yeah. Hey, yes, I did deploy. Yes. Thank you, Stolen Valor. You can back off now. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. And a lot of people don't know, like in the military, usually when we all went our separate ways because basically the unit virtually disbanded almost. Not reflagged, but most everyone just got out after that 05 deployment. Yeah. And like today in first platoon, there's only two of us left, Lower Caldwell and myself. And I think there's some second platoons and third platoon guys, but they don't matter. But there's only three of us left. So it's nice to get everyone back together after a 17-year hiatus. But today we're going to be talking about it's a series that we're doing called our first deployment. Series 1 is called The Initial Call. And we're going to break down when we got the phone call or the notification that we were deploying. Now, nowadays, I've been on 3 deployments, 2 to Iraq and 1 to Kosovo. And the process has gotten simpler since then. But when you first got the notification, Chris, what did you think about it?
It was a very interesting phone call because, with the prototype sterile National Guard, we weren't deploying at the time.
Right.
That we just invaded, went into Iraq and I don't want to say invade. I don't know if we can say that or not, but we went into Iraq to kind of take care of that situation.
Yep.
And so National Guard was like on the ready, but it's not something we were expecting to get plunged into so fast because we went in second wave. Like there was those who went in first and then we replaced the initial wave. So that call was surreal at first. So when you get in, you're surprised about it. And then, of course, we went and celebrated. We went and had our goodbye parties and that's all that. And once that reality shook off and we started getting our things together, starting to say our goodbyes and letting it sink into where we got to move to a different place. I don't want to say it became weird, but it did. It became weird, because you're fitting into a different life and your other life goes on pause. Because a lot of National Guard people, they have day jobs. They have regular careers or something like that as to where I was working, I just had to take a leave and then I came down. So it was weird at first. All 3 calls felt weird because we got the initial one and then it was like, oh, orders aren't here yet for everybody. So going back up and then I had to go back to work and then come back down. So it was an interesting call for sure.
Right. And I remember the first notification. I want to say that was right when I became team leader and I just got a PLDC. So they, the whole pageant, you're not going pictures going episode. And they kept me on orders. So when this situation happens, money starts pouring down. They tend to, they make it rain a little bit when you get your NOS, which is your notice of sourcing. A NOS. So before you deploy, you get a NOS. It means, hey, this is coming down the pipeline. Now, in this situation, I don't know how it worked because we were still in basically kinetic operations. We just finished OIF 1. We were OIF 2. So I'm sure it was just the NOSs were different or slightly different than they are now. Now it's a 4-year cycle. But funding comes down with it. And I was on the orders at the unit. And when I found out we were going to go, of course, we went to Northwest Arkansas and we partied with you. Yeah. And myself and Brad Mitchell drove up there, just drove.
Yeah. Quick drive.
I think we made it like, it was ridiculous how fast we made it there. It was insane. Stayed up all night, then made it back even quicker the next day. But there was a lot of partying going on and celebration. But I really, like, it didn't dawn on me really that we were about to go over, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, because at the time we were still in that National Guard, that persona of National Guard doesn't go anywhere. And, but I was ready for it. I wanted to go. And like, so, you know, you and I were talking before this about we were the rising generation of soldier.
Yeah.
Yourself, I'm gonna put Clint Owens in there. I'm gonna put Paul Heath in there. I'm gonna put Jimmy Glenn in there. I'm gonna put, you know, the Joe Coles, and myself and other ones in other platoons. But we were that rising generation of soldier where the old hands were starting to phase out.
Yeah.
Did you see any change in, like, what was your thoughts on, like, how people were handling it, the notifications and things of that nature?
Well, I think it came down to fear at first. You know, if so you had a fear of, and it all depends on what kind of term that you're in though too. So like for those of us who know, like our supply sergeant like retired like right after.
And our company commander.
Yeah, but they would already been in there, right? So they're not in deployment stuff like that, but they'd had enough time in as to where they didn't see it was worth the risk, as to where we were just coming in. And our leadership was still solid enough as to where we could take the training with the soldiers that we had and still be a productive unit, not knowing that we're the cream of the crop because it's the only experience that we knew. We just knew that we were that in that company. We didn't know how far head and shoulders it stood amongst the others. Right.
And I really didn't know it till I promoted out, and throughout the years, you know, different units I've been in, I knew we were good. I didn't know we were I don't want to say the tip of the spear, but we were the best that the state had. Yeah. And it's like when you deal with people, when I promoted to Alpha Company as a 6, I had some really amazing guys. Some of the best friends I have are from that unit, and they're fantastic people. And they were a really good unit, but they weren't like what we had, and they were fantastic. They were top notch, man. They weren't what we had, and so forth and so forth. And even other units have said, other people from other units, like our generation soldiers who are still in, we're all E8s, Master Sergeants, First Sergeants together. They still regard Charlie Company as the pinnacle of it. But for us, we're just like, we're just a bunch of rednecks from Mena and Northwest Arkansas. But we were really that good. And it did. And later on in episodes, people will see how it comes, like how that pays off for us. Yeah. Because as you and I both know, hundreds of people deploy, but only a few actually get to do the gangster stuff.
Yeah. Turn your gun sideways.
Kill shot. Yeah. So you got the call, just like I did. I'm already there. What was the next steps for you?
Man, it was pack it up and get down there and kind of understand where we're headed. And, and I was never one to watch the news a lot. When you start getting the call, you start paying a little more attention. So I just kind of looked into what the situation was, but I know that it wasn't going to change no matter what the news revealed. I remember and this may be going a little bit too forward, but I remember coming to your room and watching TV when we were in Fort Hood and they'd caught Saddam Hussein. So we're like, all right, well, cool. Is the war over? No, we're still going. All right, well, then I don't care about the news.
Yeah.
So I kind of just took it in stride. I'm a orders followed type of person, especially in the military. It's like, okay, I've been asked to do something. Let's just go and get it done.
I remember we did that home station training, and it's evolved since then to meet the needs. Thankfully. And they've done a lot better job of it. So now, when you get to your home station, you're doing mission essential tasks. You're doing what you're going to be doing. You're not doing the first aid or the CLS, the range. You're not doing that nonsense. You're actually doing things that you're going to be doing. However, for us, I remember the OCs, they didn't really have a good concept for training up the National Guard, because this was like our first. This was a first.
This was a brand new fight. Yeah.
Yeah. And we in our unit alone, I don't think we had anybody that was deployed like that. I know the unit just got back from Kuwait.
Yeah.
Peacekeeping, which is a dime a dozen. Those are dime a dozen missions. But this is all new to us. And I remember some of the training. Mostly I remember about the whole process was the medical process and people learning that if you were married, you get more money.
Yeah. I think we had a few in our group that kind of
Yeah.
knew what was going on with
I
that
was
situation.
I was a best man in a wedding that happened in a park in Mina. I'm not going to say his name, but he told her, like, I just remembered this too. He's like, I'm marrying you for money. And the guy was like, do you take her to be your wife? And he looked at me like to bail him out. I didn't say anything. I was like, nah, dog, I ain't saying anything. And she's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you just did that. And he's like, yeah, whatever. And then like they got married and they're not married today. Or
That's surprising.
It's surprising, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, but everyone was like, I was the only one in my squad, I think, and my team that wasn't married. So everyone made more money than me, and they reminded me of it. I was like,
Newbold
I was the youngest too. What's that?
Newbold and Woodward, they weren't married at the time.
That was Alpha team, that was before I became Alpha. I was still Bravo. I didn't become Alpha till like, and we'll talk about that whole episode when I became Alpha.
Oh yeah.
It's that Kobe Bryant moment. You get off the bench, you got to put the ball in the hole. So that's what you do.
Yeah, shooter's got to shoot.
He got to put 40 on the board, man. But that's what I remember. I also remember the medical process, and we talk about the COVID shots today, and everyone's like, I don't get it. I was like, dude, they were mixing vaccinations based off the first letter of the thing, like typhoid and tuberculosis. Okay, yeah, that'll work.
This will work.
Like I remember like the worst headaches and like just feeling like nonsense. I also remember Shoemake getting anthrax and like wandering off because he lost his memory. And like he told us, he goes, hey man, when I get anthrax, this is what's going to happen. And like
that's what's scary is he knew it was going to happen when he did it.
And sure enough, it did. Yeah. His family came and got him when we got back and took him there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But how do you think the unit, so the process of a home station is to kind of like solidify your unit, kind of for our National Guard. And we're bringing in all these people. We brought in Texas, Rhode Island met us up in Texas
the Squadron Rhode Island came along with us.
Yeah. So what do you think as far as our group of soldiers, how do you think that was helping for us? Do you think we were starting to become more cohesive? Do you think we're starting to, what was your thoughts on that situation?
I don't think it hurt us, because people aren't going to volunteer to go to a certain unit unless that unit is built for it. And hopefully the leadership inside that unit is not going to be welcoming unless they can accept outsiders. And by outsiders, I mean just people who hadn't been in the unit before the deployment. Now, granted, you're going to have the deployment train up and stuff like that to help bond. But I mean, you think about a National Guard unit, it's everybody from that town or those 4 or 5 towns that are right near you. I think I lived the farthest away, and that was 2.5 hours because it was the closest infantry unit. So, I mean, when you look at that, and I've been in the unit for, however many long, 4-some years before deployment. And it took me a while to kind of get, let the Yankee in.
Well, you and I came in at a bad time. We came in while the unit was deployed to Kuwait.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, I remember we met the Rear D when you and I was there. And on any deployment, Rear Det is, not necessarily, I mean, they're not bad, but not necessarily your gun-ho people. It's just the luck of the draw. I mean, you think about the people we left behind when we went over. I
don't even remember who our Rear D was.
I don't know. I never saw him again. I'll be honest with you. I never cared either. But that's how they treated us when they got back from Kuwait. I mean, how many stupid Kuwait stories did you hear?
All of them are stupid.
All of them are stupid. Like I'm like stupid. Especially since I've been on more deployments now. I'm like, you're stupid. Don't if you've deployed to Kuwait, don't ever talk to me about your stories. Don't ever do it. Don't do it. don't do it. Man, don't do it. Don't ever talk to me about your stories. All right. I get it. It's back then it was gangster. The Egypt deployment was gangster. Bro, we've done some things. Don't come at me with this stuff. At the reunion, don't come at me with this stuff, man. I'm telling you right now. Sit down. All right. But you and I came in, like, I remember, like, we were just, you and I were privates, and it was before I went to basic training, so I didn't know how to stand at attention. You did.
Yeah.
you're from Indiana, so you talked extremely quick. Uh, fast, as the kids would say today.
Yeah.
But then like we got back and like you had that fresh out of basic training private mode, where you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm gonna make my
You
bed
had that
every
gung
day.
ho motivation.
It lasts about a month, 2 weeks to
Yeah.
a month. Yeah.
Till your first hangover, and you're all full of piss and vinegar.
Yeah. But absolutely, especially in our unit. That's all we did
Yeah.
was do that.
I was a salty veteran after that. It's like, oh gosh, you fucking kids.
Oh man. So I think at our time, when I think about the perception of the unit, I think I look at it from now, especially being in for 22 years. I didn't see it then, but now, it's easy. We had a lot of great leaders and great soldiers in that unit. Like we were blessed. More than blessed. Our camaraderie was there. We were all just, we all got along good. And a lot of other units did too. I'm not knocking Alpha, Bravo, or Delta units from 1st Battalion. I don't care about 2nd Battalion, but the rest of them I didn't care. But one of the things I now that I look back as being an experienced NCO is seeing that like it's easy to be a super soldier 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year, which was the staple back then.
Yeah.
But when you're called up for the big game, I think that's when you start seeing the cracks. And I think we started to see some of that at home station. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I do, because we had to weed some of that out.
We did.
It doesn't matter how good the leadership is. If the ones that are following are garbage, it's going to fall short. And then vice versa. If you've got good shoulders with bad leadership, it's going to fall short. But we really had a good combination of both, as to where we had good stabilized leadership in the unit, in the NCO and CO, oh God, what do you call them? Officers.
Yeah, right.
We had it in both.
We did. And it changes. Like the squad leader I started off with was not the squad leader I ended with.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And that where it comes into, it's easy to talk a big game when you're home station all your life. And then you go to the big game, you panic and get out. So, it calls you as a young E5. And one of the things that you had to remember, like, especially in the guard back then, was like you had all these cats who were so much older than you. And they're, in my experience, they're like, well, you're young, you'll learn, just listen to me, you'll be fine, all that crap. And I had to listen to that nonsense. Then when it came time for game time, you're curled up in the ball crying. It's not my fault. You know what I'm saying? We'll get with that later on. But I had to start dealing with that nonsense then. But I had a lot of good people to mirror off of. Luckily, like our generations with Joe Coles, the Jimmy Glenns, the Clint Owens, we were all really tight knit.
Yeah.
So, we were pretty much the premier A4 mafia, except for Joe. Joe was the only one that was a 5 before me. So,
Well, he fit in well because he came from another group. He came from active duty, though.
Right. And he had the E4 mindset. So, I mean, that's
he did. Well, he liked to party. He liked to party.
He liked to party. He liked to stay all night. And I
mean, that was the best way to bond. Is, what we did is we wouldn't play ball. We partied. That was pretty much it.
Played basketball and partied. That's what we did.
You're going to fit in. You're going to fit in real good.
And it wasn't just partying. It was like mass chaos havoc. That's what we did. That was just getting.
Is there another way to bond?
They're not in our book, not in Charlie Company's book.
Yeah.
Did you see this when you got the notification? Did you really think that it was going to happen?
Given the time, Given the time, if I would have got it, if I were fast forward, 15 more years, and here we are, and I'm still in with you, and received that call, like, this is not going to happen because there's none of this.
Right.
At that time where, 9/11 wasn't too far removed from our memories, the invasion or the conflict had started or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so given the time frame, I was like, yeah, it's going to happen that way. Now get it. I didn't foresee where we were going to land, because our platoon and 2nd platoon ended in a very unique spot.
Right.
And so we can get to that one later too. But given the results, I mean, I can absolutely see it happening at the call time. I was like, okay, well, here we go. I'm getting dressed up to go. Now, I didn't foresee us being where we were, but I did foresee us being there.
What did you think about the attention you received as being a deployed soldier? What was your reaction from your parents and from your friends, which was our friends too, but like your friends and family and things of that nature?
You realize who pays attention to what's going on. So
Exactly. Good, great point. Great point.
Yeah, you really know who pays attention to what's going on. So the ones who don't watch the news, don't follow, don't stuff like that, just like, oh well, not they don't necessarily just say have fun, but they'll definitely just say see you when you get back, expecting that you're going to come back the same person. Those who do know, they show a little bit more concern. They want to spend a little more time. They want to, not that they could give you advice because they're not in, but they still want to say, take care of yourself, keep your head down. I think we heard keep your head down about 415,000 times.
Oh, man.
And so, hearing that now, it's just like, well, yeah, it's good advice because of what happened, but it's like, let's be real about the kind of stuff. But as far as my parents were supportive, and they didn't want to rush to judgment before we ended up where we were. And to be honest with you, I lied about the whole time that I was over there where I was.
Yeah, I didn't tell my parents anything. Like I didn't even share them what like anything at all. And like I came up to my dad's, this is after deployment. Like I came up to my dad's job site and Tim Stewart was there. Like he told my dad tons of things I did, and, like, all these awards I got and all that crap. And I was like, oh man. So I didn't tell him anything. I didn't tell him what I got. I just kind of kept it, And dude, it was like, oh dang it,
Yeah. I gave my parents one day of questions when I got home. I said, I'll answer your questions for one day and one day alone. So if you have questions, ask me today. Other than that, I'm not answering anything else ever again.
So yeah, it was different with me because when we got back, I had my leg repaired, my knee. So I had time to deconflict or deprocess, which I did with booze and bars. It's basically what I did. Strip clubs, things of that nature, and just the quality things that you do. Yeah. That bar in Lawton with the music videos on the wall, which is a big fan of that. Not now.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, it's just hideous. But I had time to deconflict. So by the time I actually got back to home, I was already good to go. So, but yeah, I don't really remember a lot of conversations with my parents when I was leaving about it.
I don't either. Like, I think my dad was more sad and scared when I went to college as opposed to when I went to overseas.
Yeah.
Because I think college was my first leave from home. So
I don't even think they came and saw me off. If you really want to know.
I don't think mine did either because they were up here.
Yeah. I think it was just like, all right, we'll see ya. I know they weren't there. None of our families were there when we got back. I remember that. So it's been like a tradition of mine, like the parents don't show up for deployments, which is fine. So we're getting ready. So we've done the train up, right? So we've done all the home stage stuff. Now it's time for the big movement to Fort Hood, which was our MOB site at the time.
Yeah.
What was your thoughts on all of that stuff? We're packing our bags, we're marking all these containers. What did you think about that?
It was actually really remarkable the way we're able to coordinate, move all that stuff. Sometimes, you come in out of the field and you forget a magazine or a thing of earplugs. We didn't miss anything. So I think our attention to detail was supreme as far as the military movement stuff. But I think the biggest thing that kind of came to light for me was the bus ride. Just traveling through those first 5 towns and seeing all those people on the side of the road with signs, not having a single clue who most of us were. There was a couple of hometown guys. I think they knew y'all were on the bus and everything, but they didn't know who I was. But I was treated just like y'all that day. So that was pretty interesting. That was the thing that kind of blew me away. And we made our trips around all the schools because the kids want to come out and say bye and everything. Mm-hmm. I think that was the most eye-awakening thing to what was happening through all of it. Like the train up is just train up. It's military. You just program and go. But that reality of the way people were kind of being supportive of me behind you, no matter who you are, just because you wore the uniform, that was probably the most impressive thing.
Yeah, I thought so too. And I'm from that area, but they've always been super patriotic too. There's a lot of World War II vets at the time that was there. I tell you, the time when you're going through these things, and I've been through 3 of them. It feels like eternity from when you get the call to when you're leaving. You know what I mean? It feels like it's taken like 10 years. Like we were at home station forever. Now we're going to Fort Hood. So you know what I'm saying? Like it's really just a few weeks. But now we're like, okay, we're going to Fort Hood, and You're right. One of my distinct memories was like when we drove by the school in Mena, one like Holly Harshman school, and I saw that our former company commander was standing out there saluting us, and I'm like, that dude right there. Before I knew like how resignations and retirements worked, you know.
Yeah.
And but I was like, that dude just got over on this, man. I remember staring at him, you know. But yeah, like I said, the community came out. It was amazing. Small town communities was just fantastic. Every time I've gone over, it's basically been the exact same way. The town comes out, no matter where you're at, to support you. When you're going to Shelby to Moab, when you're going to the last time I mowed was out of Fort Bliss. We actually had to go fly to it. So the same thing, like, you know, the state get escorted and all kinds of stuff. So it's really just a really big deal. I'm really proud of that. So our next episode, we're going to be talking about our Fort Hood. It'll be a little bit longer episode. And Chris, we have a lot of Fort Hood memories.
We have a lot of Fort Hood memories. Just to parrot that.
So for you to listen, this is part 1. We are moving to Fort Hood via bus, which is the longest bus ride of your life, roughly. It's up there. It's up there. And
it's definitely a graduated suddenly type thing. It's a gradual long bus ride, and then suddenly you're there.
It is, and we'll talk about how all that happened being at Fort Hood and the shenanigans and we got into from there. So that'll be our next episode.
That's a good tease. The shenanigans we got into.
Shenanigans is a good word. When you take a bunch of Arkansas cats who have been cooped up in a bus for a long time, and you give them to a brand new area of operations of Clean Texas, and you turn them loose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I remember that nightclub the first time we went out. Yeah, absolutely.
And we all had money in our pockets.
Just that Skrilla.
And time to kill.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people don't know before we go is that a lot of people don't get used to the 1st and the 15th is when you get paid in the military. When you start getting that lettuce, and you got no bills, you got to spend it a little bit, man. Especially if you're.
That's why everybody uses rubber band. You got to hold your lettuce in with your rubber band. That's right. Slap that.
Make it rain. Gotta make it rain. Yeah. You just pray that you can get to the 15th before that car payment hits. Absolutely. So, Chris, thanks for coming on. We'll have you on for episode 2. Maybe some more of our guest friends. For everyone else, appreciate you. Like, listen, subscribe to War Whiskey. And I'm Justin Fisher. And for Chris Audrey, we're signing off.